Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very, very special interview today. We're super, super excited about this. All of us here on the Sibelius team. I have with me the legendary Tim Davies. Tim, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Oh, we're thrilled to have you. I'm super excited to talk to you. We have a lot of questions we want to ask you about your
Of
journey over
course.
the last 2 years, and we're going to talk a little bit about your workflow, and you're going to show us some of the wizardry that you use in our program. But yeah, I thought maybe we could just kind of start with a brief introduction for those folks watching who might not know who you are or not be
hmm
familiar with your work. Can you give us a little bit of background on who you are and what your career has looked like up until this point?
Yeah, sure. I'm primarily, I guess, my day job. I say I'm an orchestrator, and a conductor for movies. So I've done, you know, all the Ant-Mans, the Frozens, a couple of Household Transylvanias, Hoppers that came out this year. I was just conducting the next Peanuts movie 2 weeks ago or a week ago. Um, Working on TV. I mainly work with at the moment Christoph Beck, Mark Mothersbaugh, and Phil Eisler. So we've just finished Outer Banks season 5 with Phil, and then Chris has obviously the next Frozen coming up, and then we've got another Minecraft with Mark. So that's the sort of the day job, doing that, and then when I'm not doing that, I arrange for a lot of hip hop artists and concerts. So I did Dua Lipa the other last year or whenever it was. She did the Royal Albert. I got a concert next week with Lizzo that I'm arranging. But I've done Nas, Common, Kendrick Lamar, Toby Wigway, Babyface, Gusta, a lot of stuff at the Kennedy Center
Yeah.
with National Symphony, and just rappers and hip hop and R&B stuff I seem to have found my way into. And then I also do a lot of kind of fix it work for studios when maybe there's a new composer coming in that hasn't worked with a big orchestra before. They have me help out, like on La La Land. Justin orchestrated all of that himself, but I sort of just gave him a few pointers and conducted that one, and then he's conducted everything after that. But the studio put me in there to just show him the ropes, just on a technical level, musically he did what he did, that was all him. And then other times, if a composer can't quite get a cue through and it's not the right style, maybe I'll go in and fix that for them.
Yeah.
Or then, yeah, just arranging. Or like last year, I did this Elvis concert movie with Baz Luhrmann, and that was a bit of everything. So arranging, transcribing, recreating, orchestrating, conducting. It was my perfect gig because there was all of my skills in the one thing. But everything I do involves notes. So sitting here in front of these machines, in front of a scoring program, is that's everything that I do.
Yeah. So you're really a jack of all trades. I mean, you kind of do it all depending on what the work calls for. It sounds like you have quite the resume.
Yeah, I've done a few things now. I mean, I've been at it for quite a while, so
Yeah,
just
sure.
keeps going, and yeah, but it's been great, and I love the diverse mix of things that I get to do.
You mentioned that you spend so much of your time sitting in front of a notation program on your computer, which brings me to the first thing that I wanted to ask you about. You were a Finale user for most of your career. Is that
Yeah,
true?
yeah, the entire 1994. Got my
Oh,
first
yeah. Long time.
machine. I think it was Finale 2 at the time or something like that. It was an early floppy disk. And yeah, ever since then, I mean, I do remember seeing when Sibelius first, the first version when it was on the Acorn PC. I went to see a demo of it in Australia. And then, but yeah, I just, I was so entrenched in Finale, and it was like so much muscle memory, and we'd hacked it into doing things that it wasn't meant to do, and and that was actually a big part of the mentality of getting away from it, was just learning that certain things other programs are going to do out of the box better than Finale. And other things we'll have to hack them into doing the way we want,
Yeah,
and
of
it
course.
wasn't like Finale was perfect at all. I mean, it was, by the end, it was crashing every hour. It was a nightmare. So, and I sort of held on as long as I could, and then had to look at all the options and then make a decision on what was going to be best for me and my process.
Of course, yeah. I kind of wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah.
I think we're coming up on 2 years since we all got the word that Finale was going to cease development, and you as a professional, you've kind of built your career in this software. You've customized it completely to fit you. Can you just tell us a little bit about like what were you thinking in that moment? What was your reaction? What was the first thing that came through your head? I mean, how did you and your team respond to that?
Yeah. Well, we weren't surprised, honestly. I mean, I wasn't surprised because they really had stopped, developing it. Nothing new had come in for like 10 years in the program. There was the odd little bug fix. It was just that there was this great community of Lua scripting people, which is like, Lua script is like, the manuscript, you have your language in Sibelius, and, people were writing plugins in Lua, and there was a lot of great people doing it. And so we were putting in a lot of extra features that weren't in the program, so we were sort of pushing the program forward, but, things were starting to break more and more, and just the quirks in the program began to show. And, I had looked at some options, but nothing sort of seemed like it was worth it until we were forced, to go. And then, we did stay in denial for quite a while. I spoke to a few colleagues that had moved quite quickly to Sibelius, and a few that were trying Dorico. We tried Dorico, and it's a cool program. It's got its own way of doing things, and some of the quirks that I thought I wouldn't be able to handle in Sibelius are the same in Dorico, because obviously it's got some of the same DNA. So, things that we've had to work around are the same, or just find a new way of doing. But just the process in Sibelius, the way it looks on the screen, the speed, the fact that I can click and edit anything at any time in any view while I'm working. Because we're churning through, if we've got a TV show scoring, we had like 2 days to do 20 cues the other day for a TV show between like 4 or 5 of us. But I have to open every one of them and check it and proof it and give notes and all of that. And I might want to change something, at any moment in someone else's on my score. And just being able to, in Sibelius, click on anything at that moment and change it, which is what I could do in Finale, is like, that's a really important thing for me. And I work a lot in panorama view. So having a clean, uncluttered panorama view that I can control and do whatever I want in, space things out so it's neat and nothing's messy. That was a really important thing for me. And
of course,
so those sorts of things were where Sibelius, definitely from my perspective had the upper hand, and the speed, obviously, everyone told me about the speed. And Finale was pretty good, but it could slow down with if you had a massive orchestra score. And, we have not just the orchestra, but we have the whole sketch hidden at the bottom of our score, so we can paste it around and do all of that. So it's basically a double orchestra score that we have. And if you've got 200 bars of that, it starts to tax the computer. But, so far we've found Sibelius has been really good at the speed.
Yeah, that's awesome. Are there any other features that really contributed heavily to you choosing Sibelius, kind of ending up in Sibelius from Finale, besides the speed, which you mentioned?
It was the speed, the panorama. I mean, that's kind of the number one for me. I don't look at a score. Well, actually, I have found, because Sibelius does a better job than Finale at like just automatically laying things out. Like you can look in page view and it's pretty usable once you work out what you're doing. Whereas Finale was just a mess when you first switch. So I wouldn't switch to page view until the entire thing was done. Every bit of work was done. I was just going there to lay it out. Now I'll catch myself accidentally working in page view sometimes, and it doesn't bother me because it's sort of the same. But when you're working on like a 16 bar section or even just something that's not going to fit, on a page, creatively, it doesn't make sense to have a gap in the middle.
Right.
Which when Sibelius first came out, that was the only way. back in the day, and then they came up with the panorama. So yeah, so that I do that. We've gotten way into the plugins, making our own, editing the plugins. Like my assistant Pano and a couple of others, Lorenzo on my team, they've really run with it and have come up with all sorts of crazy things to make it do things like Finale, or also just improved all of the plugins that you have. And I don't know how to do it, but they've worked it all out.
That's cool.
So that's been amazing. So, I find like I am faster if I just want to sit here and work without trying to be a smart ass and come up with new plugin ideas or new macros with Maestro to do things. I'm actually way faster than I ever was. But I tend to get excited, come up with an idea on how I can do something another way. And then, I'll waste an hour toying with it. I might try something myself in execute commands, and then I'll send that off to the others in the group, and then they will, someone will actually then just make an actual plugin,
Makes sense.
from scratch, and they've found it pretty easy. I mean, obviously they've using like Claude and all of that to help them with the coding.
Speaking of plugins, and customization, we talked about some of the things reasons why you chose Sibelius, Panorama, the speed, maybe things that looked familiar or seemed familiar from Finale.
Exactly. Yeah.
What were some of the things that were totally foreign to you? Like you looked at when you came into Sibelius and you thought, I'm going to have to customize this because this is not how I'm used to working.
Well, some you couldn't customize, you're just getting used to the selecting. The selecting took a bit to get used to, because for Finale, you can select a half a bar and you can just hit delete and just that delete. So if you want to select beat 1 and 2 of a whole note, you can then just delete that and you're left with a half note on beat 3. And you can sort of select and move anything anywhere. Also dropping things, if you've got something in Sibelius, if you've got a hairpin starting on beat 3 and you want to put that in another stave starting on beat 3, if there's nothing there for it attached to on beat 3, it's going to go to beat 1. There's those little things that we have found workarounds for it.
Sure.
But there were some things. But then, the other things that have just been like a game changer for me, is manipulating notes now by, just not having to go into a mode. Like, in Finale, was a speedy entry guy. So always pitch before duration, because I like to doodle and hear the chord and then check the voicing and then go, oh, that's what I want. Yeah. And then I enter that, because I'm constantly creating while I go. I don't want it to, oh crap, I just entered, 3 bars while I was doodling by accident, but being able to just highlight, select and then add, I'm, really good now at adding pitches above, adding below, manipulating, like selecting the third one, selecting the bottom one, deleting the top note, deleting the bottom note. I've got macros to do all of that. So I just, it's like, it's getting to muscle memory now. And so I can manipulate a lot more in Sibelius really quickly without going into mode, different things or selection tools, like there's less tools, it's all just the one thing. That's been great. And the way it handles dynamics, is just so much better. Finale, it couldn't move until we sort of had a few Lewis grips. You put in a dynamic and a hairpin, you always were moving things around and then lining things and all that. And one thing with Sibelius, I will say, like any program, you've got to, for your needs and whatever you're doing, you've got to go in and make some customizations, like magnetic layout. When I've sort of been a critic of a lot of people who, like they'll have a woodwind run or something, and the dynamic, a mezzo forte, all of a sudden is like pushed off to the left because one stave had a clash, and that's because they had the vertical alignment box check, which I'm probably saying the wrong thing. So if you uncheck that, only the one that needed to move will move, and the rest will be okay. Or I don't want it to move to the left anyway. I don't think that's great. So I have it set that nothing moves to the left. It'll only move up and down. And just things like that. But going in and then working out how magnetic layout works and then tweaking it and coming up with your own sort of brew for that has just so much faster at things and pasting it between. And, we'll have certain conductors want a transposed score for live work, not for film scores. It's always concert scores. But, for a live concert, certain ones want transposed, certain people want concert scores. Sometimes we want key signatures in a live show. We don't use them in the scoring studio, but, I'm doing this Halo project right now for the 25th anniversary, and we're putting together like 2 hours worth of music. And we started with key signatures, which are all going to disappear at the end, but it's just helping us, work with the key signature. And in Sibelius, just turning them off and going to, keyless is just seamless. And whereas in Finale, that wasn't seamless. Same with going between a transposed score and a not transposed score. It's just a toggle, and the look of it pretty much sorts itself out, and it's seamless. That's amazing.
That's great. I think this is a perfect segue. I mean, we want to get into your workflow and have you show us around some of these tools that you are taking advantage of. So do you want to go ahead and share your screen with us, and we can start talking through some of the specific pieces that you're working on and how you're making Sibelius work for you?
And the first thing, if you look in the picture, you can see I've rearranged how my hands are, which is like just the first thing that happened with Sibelius. I've always had a different setup where I had my QWERTY, just the short one without the number pad, and then I have my Kensington Slim Blade, and then I had a number pad to the right. That made sense in Finale and everything else. And then on the left, I have the jog shuttle to scroll around Digital Performer, which is where we host all of the source files that we're referring to. So I can sort of control everything with that. And then I realized that, in Sibelius, because so much of what you do involves the number pad with, entering notes, but changing durations and modifying. And, one of the things with film scoring or film orchestration is, we get MIDI files, we get all those notes. And the more you can do just by changing and manipulating those notes and not re-entering, the less chance you have of screwing up. So that's what we've gotten really good at is, anything to lengthen, shorten, to change, all of that. And I found my left hand, my right hand was jumping off the trackball all the time to do things. So then I realized, what if I put another one? So first of all, I put it above the jog shuttle, and I was moving up there. And then I came up with this other thing that I'll show about how I play back in the background. That meant I didn't need the jog shuttle anymore as much. So now I just have a number pad to the left, and my hand just sits there, and it's really ergonomic. I don't get any fatigue from just sitting here because I'm really comfortable. And that's like another thing with stream decks and all of that, which are really cool, and they look really good in Instagram pictures, more so than my setup. But your hand's got to move away to do all of that. And it's really hard to get muscle memory when you've got to move away and then click through 3 pages and then find something. You've really got to do that. So I'll just share my screen quickly, and then definitely. I can explain the setup. So here we are with all my new, like I had a lot for Finale. That's all the old Finale ones. But these are all the Sibelius ones.
Wow.
That's just, if I just look at just all, and these are all doing something. And a lot of it is just rerouting a key command from the program, because you'll notice here I don't have the ribbon open 99% of the time. If I hit F1, you'll see this comes up here. And so this is my kind of homebrew Stream Deck. I hit the F keys and other keys, but mainly based around the F keys, to bring up a palette of things. And then if I want to go into, layout, I just hit L. So I hit F1 and then H to get back to home, and F1 L to get to layout.
Oh,
and
brilliant!
That's just and I'm done. And then that's going to be there for like one thing, and then I had it again because I want the most notes on the screen, not all the other stuff. And I know you can do the tooltips. But I had so much muscle memory in using my control key for various things that wasn't going to work. So I have them off, but it's meant that I have some really crazy convoluted keyboard shortcuts for various functions that I'll never remember or are not ergonomic. I mean, you want to basically do as much as you can with your left hand in position without moving. So you don't want it to be having to do everything. So, most of the things I can do just with my left hand in position. But so if you look here, I've got all these things. So if I hit F2, these are all my selections for, filtering the top note, leave the top note, delete the top note, filter voice 2, delete the bottom note when I'm working with chords. If I go here, F3, this is more stuff triggering either just a straight function or a plugin. Fill duration, if I want to put in one note and then select a couple of bars and then I just go F3, F, and it will fill the duration. So just got all these tied to an eighth. I use that all the time. If I want to put in a whole note, but then I need it to come off on one, then I just go F3, 4, and that'll do that. And if I go F4, there's more of them. So here's another bunch of things. If I want to put a breath mark in, if I want to get into clefs, if I want to invert a chord, just lots of other things there in here. And then F5, there's another one, which is basically lines. So, Q bracket, arrows, different sorts of trills and brackets and all that sort of stuff. And then, so there's just all these F6s for sort of rhythm section stuff, like adding repeat bars and bar repeats and slashes and drum notation. And F8, I didn't mean to hit that. F8 is for view stuff. So do a lot of stuff. Like one thing we really love is the comments feature. So if you look here in this cue here, you can see I've got the comments on showing. So, we've got, here's our string count, and here's my assistant reminding me we have 4 horns this week instead of 3. But, I don't need to see that all the time. So I just do this. I got rid of it. I just turned them off. I don't even remember how I did that. But the good thing is it's all programmed, and I can just do it. If I want to do view, turn on different things, here, I can just come in here and it will do it, So
clever. So it's not like, it's your personalized, on-screen Stream Deck, but it's like 8 personalized on-screen Stream Decks. It's like having multiple decks that are recallable
exactly,
at the hit of a function key.
And I keep going down. So if F9 was to do with parts, I've got to turn that. I was mucking around with the look of it, but that's when you're making parts, you can use there. And then this is all my exploding ones we'll have to show you because we've got some crazy exploding things and manipulations to do it. Like I said, we don't want to be adding notes. We want to just manipulate the notes that are in there. And then, F11 is setups for this current score and things. And then F12 gets me into the setups of Sibelius. So if I want to install a plugin, I just go Sibelius, I hit F12, and then I hit P now. And you'll see it's going to do a bunch of things, which I don't have to worry about. So it got me all the way in to now I can just type whatever I want to find. And I'm there.
Wow.
Like that's what I waste way too much time coming up with. It's pointless. Absolutely pointless. But
you're never really having to use your mouse for any of those functions like installing plugin. That's a lot of navigational time wasted with your navigating
but and it's a
and
sport for
around.
me. It's a sport to come up with these things and the ergonomics, and then like just for what I do, it's so customized for what I do, and it's all reliant. Actually, in Finale, we had it it was a lot more complicated and reliant on a bunch of other things. Sibelius is the plugins are all sort of, either standard or they're ones that we've manipulated and redone, and you just put them in the folder. If it's like a one that we've hacked, or if it's one that came with the program, then it's installed regularly. And that's another big deal. You can install a plugin and not have to restart the program, because when you're learning the program, you learn, so Finale as a, just your day-to-day, you learn to use plugins, but you can sort of get away without it.
Okay.
But Sibelius, you really need plugins, and there's so many out there. And so just installing them without having to shut the program down is like amazing.
Big time saver.
Big time saver. So that's been we're like, amazing. If we do, hack our own or make our own, then of course you do have to, restart. We're not doing that all day long.
Can I just ask, from the first time that you kind of decided to try out Sibelius 2 years ago, once you learned about Finale, up until now, how long did it take you to get to the point where you felt like that it was customized to your liking?
Yeah, so the learning process, I didn't do anything until I think Joe and Sam came by at the NAM when the NAM show was on in January, and like they reached out to me through my friends at Joanne Kane's, and I was like, all right, let's meet up. Why not? You know, and I still was in denial that I had to do. I knew I had to move and try something,
Sure.
but I couldn't make up my mind
And
where
this
to go.
is Joe and Sam from our product team on Sibelius.
Yeah,
right? Product managers. Yeah.
And they came around and, you know, showed us some stuff, and they were really cool, and you know, they were also great at listening. Like just you know, I feel like I have a true relationship with them now. You know, they're putting in things that I've suggested already. You know, and you know, like we work without rests in our scores. I don't want to see a rest unless I have to. I just like it clean. I don't need to, you know. But you know, it's always been that if you had the rests hidden, it hid every whole note rest got hidden, and we needed them sometimes. You don't want them all hidden, so we were having to cheat with a line. But they put in now that you can just unhide any rest, and there it is, and it's there. You know, and I've been, you know, a huge critic of the ties in Sibelius since day one. Like these, you know, we used to end our meetings like this when we were first learning the program as a joke, because that's what they look like, you know. And you can make it like that though. It's just a setting, everybody. We can do it, so you don't have to do that. But anyway, I have been very critical of it, and you know, I would put people through the ringer that when someone was either like I was mentoring someone, or they wanted to be on the crew, and I'm like, no, it's it's all finale. But you can have some fun and try a cue, you know, like my friend Susie I tortured years ago. She's always been she knew finale, but was always mainly Sibelius. And I said, okay, you can orchestrate a cue on this TV show if you can make your Sibelius look like finale. And it took a half an hour to actually orchestrate the cue because it was so simple. Then about 8 hours to try and make it look like what I wanted it to look like. And now, you know, with just the program's evolved so much that you can... Now that we've got this tie fix that's coming out next, that I'm just sort of playing with the beta of right now, like you look at my scores, the ties are all much flatter in the ones that I'm showing, and they're like now you could. That was the last tell, really. I mean, the fonts are a little different, but was these big swoopy ties, and now that that's fixed or will be fixed, you know, that's like amazing, and you know, so just to to have this, communication where I can say like, hey, you know, like this would be a great function or feature or something, and then have them go. Some of them they're like, nah, you're dreaming, you know. But obviously others they're like, oh, that kind of makes sense. And
Sure.
and people coming over, like, you know, I do have a lot of friends that haven't moved yet, you know, that are still on the fence and you know, are waiting, you know, to see. But so the process, we kind of skipped ahead, but the process of learning, you know, I met them in January, then still put it in the too hard to deal with basket for a bit. And then we had some time, like I think it was end of February, March. And so I spent a month pretty much learning it, and started with looking at videos online, and then just started experimenting a little bit. And then the first thing we did was took one of our cues from Chris Beck's last score, imported it, and then we just tried to make it look like our old version. You know, we XML'd it in. So it was nothing technical. It was just about getting the settings to make it look so that I was going to be happy and all of that. And then, you know, the way I work is with this sketch and pasting it all up. So then we did like the same cue, but I started from the sketch. So I had bare notes in the MIDI, and then I had to go and put everything on it, like all the dynamics, and work out the settings and everything. And then, you know, luckily I did this with my whole crew. So it was like 5 of us all doing it. We have a Slack channel, you know, it's called Hell Froze Over, you know, that I came to be not just a Sibelius user, but like someone who's like, oh my God, you know, like it's actually really cool. And So having a bunch, but then also a bunch of really good friends and other orchestrators, I could ask questions of.
Yes.
I'd have to have like 3 on the go because I couldn't keep bugging the one person all day long. Because when I did it, I really went for it, and I would have just streams of questions and making little screen capture videos like, how do you do this? And, and occasionally I would get the answer back, well, you can't. And we just didn't accept no for an answer. And we've actually fixed like nearly all of those things, like when we were doing like imploding, I forget what you call it in finale, was imploding. If I've got stuff on 2 or 3 staves and I want it on 1 stave just at the top and I want to merge it up. There's an issue with the default version of that plugin. And if you've got any staves hidden, which we have string staves hidden in every score, it unhides them.
Oh, okay. I see.
But Pano went in and just fixed it. So,
wow.
Like things that was like, oh my God, that's a deal breaker. We've actually been able to go in and fix by doing that. And any plugin, you can go in and just, start to tweak. Like when I was experimenting with making drum charts, ensemble notation, the plugin for that, it brings up all of these options and then you got to click a few things. Well, I know exactly what I want. So we just, made our own version that just 1 click and it does ensemble up or ensemble below. And so that's just the amazing things you can do. You can get in. And now we've got all sorts of crazy ones that I didn't even understand how they did it.
Of course.
But so anyway, I'd say a month was just to finish the time of like learning it, a month. And then we started doing some smaller TV projects and I started doing some arranging in it. And then that was it. Like after a week, I had to open up Finale to do something and I was just yelling and screaming, at the program.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh my God, I put up with this for so long.
Yeah.
And I'm an idiot.
Yeah. Can we, that's awesome. Yeah. I was curious about that, but, I can imagine that it was a daunting task, but once you get it settled in, it probably feels pretty good to be back on track. Can we go back to your screen and maybe talk a little bit more about
I'm going to show you this is a couple of things. So one thing that, happens in every project that I do is I have I have a Sibelius file and then I have a digital performer file, which is where we host all of the audio and MIDI from the composer or the song if we're transcribing it. On this main screen, I've got the Sibelius file, and on my second screen, I've got like 4 screens, but on the main left one, I have Digital Performer with the wrong file open. You can see this is from Halo, and here's this one from this TV show, and so I want to open it, so I just trigger a key command, and it shut that, and now it's opened the correct file for this one. And made sure that I'm in page view and looking, at the right place. So, and how I do that is if I go into file, you can see instead of the publisher, we have the address of the file. So it goes in and grabs the file from there. But it does even better. It grabs the start bar. See, we're offset here. It's bar 4, not bar 1, which is really common in film music. And if you look over here on this screen, you can see that it's gone and spotted it to bar 4. So it's ready to play back from the right bar. And then
very clever.
And then like if I want to, all right, I'm done. I'm done with looking at that one. So let me just go to this other one that I've got here. Let's go to this. And now I want to open this one. I just trigger it. And it's going to close that. And now I've got the other one open.
Wow.
And then the other thing I was talking about earlier with the jog shuttle that I used to use to play back, it works in the background. I worked it out years ago with Finale. And anyway, if I want to play back this score from bar 21 here, let me just make it a bit bigger so everyone can see where we are. Like from 21, most people would click over here and they would go scroll around, find bar 21, press play, but then you've got stuck with that playing in the background, What I can do is I just select that bar there, and then I can trigger this, and it grabbed the bar number here in the background, shot that over to DP and spotted it. So if I go here, so 29, and then I have it set that I can just I keep going to hit spacebar to stop it and accidentally playing Sibelius. So if I don't do anything else, it'll allow me to hit the spacebar to stop it. Otherwise, I have a bunch of sort of exit keys. You know, if I hit Command Escape, everything stops playing back because I tend to get in a bit of a mess. Then if so that's playing back the original file from Halo soundtrack. I'm working on a live show for them. So, but if I want to play back Sibelius from here, you know, I know I can select this note and hit P, but I've got a button here and it does that. But I want to be able to just select the bar and then I can trigger it and it plays back. And, you know, if I want to skip to there and play back. So I'm controlling all the playback just from my QWERTY keyboard. And how this has been a game changer for me is working on a plane or in a studio or anywhere on the couch. You know, I don't need two screens to be able to see what I'm looking in the digital before. I can just go like, oh,
I've got to go back and forth between Sibelius and DP
I've got to check bar 52. Here we go. It played back 52. You know, so that's not actually a direct Sibelius thing, but I'm sort of using features in there. Like we found out a way to grab the measure number in the background through an Apple script, I think, or some scripting, and then that throws it. It's a plugin that then uses Apple script to put it into the clipboard, and then it puts it over there and spots it. So
clever.
Yeah, like it's just all of these little things that save me time and make life better. That a lot of people don't bother with because it is a pain to set it up. But once it's all set, it's just like, you know, it works. And, you know, if you want to look at just some of that. So here's the playback. So this is the get bar number. This is the script that puts it into the clipboard. Then it just sends a keypad dot to Digital Performer so that it can spot it, pastes it in there, tells it to play, and then it arms that other macro so that my spacebar will stop it.
Wow.
And it's quite
wow.
It's simple when you think about it, but you know, you know, and then the opening open DP. That's a little. This one's a little more complicated. The one that opens the file, you know. But,
I see.
You know, it just takes a little bit more time to work out. But you know, the simple ones where it's just remapping something, you know, that's you know, they're easy to do. So then, like a couple of the other, if I just get to this one, I prepared a few things. So this is from this Lizzo show that we're doing, and like a lot of the exploding things that you need to do. So if I look here, if I need this, so I've just gone and sketched this in my horns, right, into one part. So horns 1 and 2. So because this is a legit gig, I'm doing interlocking on the French horns. So the pitch order is actually 1, 3, 2, 4, even though the stave order is 1, 2, 3, 4, which is a total pain in the ass to do. But if you look here, I've got a whole combination of single, 2, 3, 4 voices, 4 notes, and unisons, right? And if I just select and then trigger, this is my F10, and I hit H for horn. I've got it perfectly exploded out. A unison, pairs.
Oh, yeah.
Top note doubled, which is my rule in 3 notes. The voices come out correctly. Now, this is correct because, you know, the pitch order is actually, you know, 1, 3, 2, 4. Then here I've got 4 notes, and here I've got a unison. And, you know, and then so for the trumpets, if I need this here, I hit T for trumpet, and it's going to explode 1 into the top, which is how I have it, and 2 into the bottom. And for the trombones here, where I've got 2 up, 1 down, if I hit B, I've got that. And the only thing I would want to do is here is I want 2 up here. So I just add, oops, I went the wrong way. Add the octave there. And then now that's all done, you know? So that's
so fast.
That's just hacking some of the ones that are in there, I think. I'm not actually sure, but they're things that we've come up with, you know, to do things, and then just other little things that I've hacked around. So I do a lot of not a lot of, but occasionally like repitching things, like where I need to change the notes and I don't want to change the rhythm. And there is a function, but I was getting tripped up. So if I trigger it right now it goes to the first note and I can just play, right? But if I want to select just this note, I want it to repitch from there. And it is. So if I select the measure, and this is the same plugin, it'll select the first note, or because I used to have to use two plugins, right? One if I wanted the first note of a measure, or one if I wanted halfway through a measure. And there I can just do that. And now I've got that, and I can repitch. So that's another thing that, we've mucked around with and hacked around. The other sort of one that we've come a long way with is like putting this in. Like, I also love the just being able to filter the dynamics out and delete them like that is amazing. But we came up with this dynamics tool. So if I want to put in that, piano is 2, and then I need a fortissimo, and then the dot means it'll be at the end of the bar. And so now I've got that perfectly positioned in one go. And I use this tool to put dynamics on everything now. So if I need to put a dynamic here, I just do this and then hit that, and then I've got the dynamics. And that's sort of related to our old, finale numbers. And like a really cool thing that I've been really liking is, this is already here, but if I just get rid of these dynamics here and I want, forget that these notes are here, but I need all of these notes to have like a forte. I can just select that and then run this thing, or I can do it your normal way, and it puts it on that first entry, which has been like amazing. Like another example that comes up all the time in TV stuff, where we're doing things with mutes. So you can see here, I've got mutes on all these first entries. So if I just filter out the text, which is again like, filtering in Finale was a bit of a pain in the ass. The filtering here is like just so cool that I can just filter out anything that I want. But I just select all of this, so I've got the first entries, and then I sort of do this the way I used to do it. So if I trigger whatever this is option tilde. If I trigger this, it's going to bring up this list of things, and I hit the M. And now I've got consort in all the right places.
Oh, yeah.
So what's going on there is, in Finale, it was all meta tools. But if I want to put something in that's regular, I don't want to have to type it. I'm just lazy, So I just just trigger that and I hit A, and now I've got Arco. And it just typed it. Some of it's word listing, but this is typing. And then, for example, we do a lot of pickups in the TV. In scoring, so I need to tell the conductor to stop there. I just do this, and I just triggered pickup. Like it typed it for me. Like I didn't have to do anything. You can't really see my hands, but I was just like, I did.
No, yeah, you just.
I did this, and then I hit P for pickup, and then if I want to put a rehearsal letter in, I hit R. Like all these.
Which
things.
function key was this to open this one?
I was using option that's commands tilde brings up that list.
Oh, commands tilde. Okay.
So, and if I want to just type regularly, I do command tilde 3, and then I can just type anything, and it won't bring the list up. But if I want to bring my list up, like let's say I need to tell this to be div R3 or something, I do that and then do that, and now I've got div R3 above it. If that was, it's not, but if it was, so just stuff like that. Putting in the POCOs and all that, that's sort of been a bit of a thing that we had to work out, but I can do it now. If I want to do a multo-dim, we got it just, I don't even know how we do that, but it does it. That's the thing with all this. I'm useless at trying to explain and show everything because it's all muscle memory and things that I just don't know how to do.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
so,
I find that a lot when people ask me questions about keyboard shortcuts on various Pro Tools and Sibelius. They're like, you do this very basic function, and I can't tell you what it is, but my fingers do it.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't remember what keys. My fingers just do this, and it does what I ask it to do.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, especially and then once it's into just palettes and nesting and all that, like triggering a palette and then just hitting, a key based on that. And the good thing with the palettes is a lot of them I've got memorized anyway, so it's not like I have to look at the list. But if it's something you don't use all the time, like with the program setups, like going into to change the default settings, default spacings and stuff like that, which I was mucking around with today, that is something that, I have my F12 and then there it is, and I don't have to remember. Great. There is a key command for it, but it's something crazy, and then sometimes ones that I'm still toying with, I will, instead of having the program a crazy key command, I will just go to the command search. So I'll actually have the macro will go up there and it'll type the full name of the plugin, and then it will run it from there. So I don't have to set a key command. But if I'm going to use it often, then I like to set, because it's much faster.
Yeah, makes sense.
So when we're doing a film score, I've got the actual whole sketch in here below. You can see here's all these notes, and then I just copy it around, and I use focus sets to make it, a little easier. So here's a focus set that's reduced. That's just got my main staves that I need to see. These are the staves, sort of starting point staves, the string staves without all the, because I don't need 2 viola staves most of the time. I don't need 2 bass, but I need 2 cello. So here's my sketch and the actual staves, and I can just paste things around. And if it's a much bigger score, well, then I'll do one with, woodwinds sketch, woodwinds staves, and sort them out, and then I can do lots of different setups with, and we use this focus sets plugin to do all that. You can see I've got the score one with all of those things in. And this is like, talking about hacking plugins. By default, this displays all of these things out of order. Your plugin, or whoever's Bob's plugin, which is amazing, but it's out of order. And then Pano went in and we've ordered it so we can see, because if I need to, take away or add staves to this, like this sketch one, if I'm working and I want to just work on, now I want to add the horns to that, I've added it to the sketch, and then I go save, and then I'm in here. Now you'll see that I've got just the horn staves and the sketch staves.
Yes. Oh, cool.
And so we use that all the time. In every file has that. And then, so the main score is these staves. And if I look in there, now you'll see it's a perfectly laid out score. But if I turn off the focus, then I've got, I'm back to everything. But I don't want all of those staves when I'm working. So this is what I'm going to work with. So let me find a good place. So here's a perfect example. So I'm just going to delete these bars here with where the cello and the basses are in octaves. And let's just, for sake of argument, get rid of that there. So I've got my main cello stave. This one comes and goes when needed, and then I've got my bass. Now, one thing you do all the time is I need to get the bottom note down to this bass stave. And just because of the way I like to work, I have it that the bass stave is the pitching is being done somewhere else. It's staying at what you see is what you see. Because some people have it set up that, if I wasn't viewing this in concert pitch or whatever, in concert, this would be in the wrong octave, or it would show right, but it would play back wrong. So anyway, so I can explode that, and then I can just do that. We made all these plugins that I can just move that easily to the staff below, and then I could put it up the octave, right? Easy. Or I could, let me get rid of that. It's just like so many ways of doing this. I need to get back to the octaves, don't I? Well, I just merged that back up. So, all right, so I just merged that back. And then, so I could copy it down and then move it down. And then I want to just keep the top note. And then I want to keep the top note, or I could paste that back, right? There's another way. All right. But the quickest way that I came up with is I just select this and I trigger this one, and it just does it for me. And it throws it into the double basses and puts it up the octave. It's stupid. Wow. It's stupid. No one else cares. But, when we're doing this all day long,
we care.
All right. So with the number pad, another thing I did just to make life easier is when I want to go into note entry, I just hit the 0, which is where my hand is, so it's just really quick.
Sure,
I'm just,
naturally.
Just toggling in and out of it. And then I can just, start playing in. The other thing that I did is, like, if I want to enter a triplet now, I enter the first note and then I hit 8 and it brings me this list, and I hit 3 and then I've got a triplet in. And the good thing with that is my hand doesn't have to leave to go off to, select anything. I've got all the common triplets that I might ever need, 3, 5, 6, 7, and 9, all pre-programmed, ready to go. And then I just enter the notes. That's, it saves me a ton. And it's just like easier on the wrists and everything when everything is sitting there. But yeah, having the number pad on the left is a game changer, because all day long you're changing, changing durations and editing things and entering notes,
Yeah. So I guess we'll wrap with two questions. So the first one that I had for you is, if you could speak maybe directly to folks that are still considering where to go from Finale, they're still not sure where they could end up, or maybe they're going from Finale, they're just getting their feet wet in Sibelius.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for those folks on maybe how to find their footing, or things that they can do to to feel a little bit more comfortable?
I think if you're moving now and you're trying to work out, or you're still trying to work out, I mean, obviously you can try anything. Like I mentioned earlier, what we did was, first tried to replicate things, and then you work that out. But I honestly, I call a friend to learn everything. And that's, like I did it with my whole team. So there was 5 of us, plus we've got, many sort of adjacent people. My Slack has people from Joanne Kane's and Fine Line Music and Disney all in it. So I've got just, I was lucky that I had all these people that were willing to help out and create my look, my template. I mean, I've been lucky in that other people, have already, replicated my template and my settings and all of that. And so they were able to help. And then I've tweaked things even more, to make it even more customizable. And then we've improved things since, now that we're looking at it from a different perspective, learning different ways of doing things. Like, when we had our list that we were compiling of things to go over with you guys, after a while, either, feature requests or just glitches or just how the hell do we do this? What Jeremy Levy and I found when we went through them to actually present was that probably a quarter of them didn't exist anymore, because we were trying to do it the Finale way and we hadn't switched our brains yet. And there's going to be things that you have to switch your brain on, and you just have to learn the different way of doing it.
Sure.
And that can be frustrating at first. The selection is frustrating at first, how it selects. And you just got to learn a few things, a few tips and tricks on how to do it, and then you'll master it. But yeah, sort of accepting that some things you can do the same way. Yeah. But it's a better way, like I find, the way dynamics are handled and text, the way I showed where I can just select all that stuff and put the mute on in one thing. At first with Finale, I was, was a huge meta tool user where you can just, hold down a key and put dynamics in, different dynamics. So if I had a mixed section, all the brass had different dynamics. I could just hold down one key and I'd get an MP, and then hold down another key and clicking, and it was super quick. I've basically got something similar and that fast now in Sibelius. It's not the same, but another way of doing it. But all of those sorts of things we were dying without for the first week or two. And then we got, no, there's a better way to do it. Or there's just another way. Maybe some aren't necessarily better. It's just another way that you have to rewire your brain and change some muscle memory. Like some key commands I've kept in the same place, and rerouted them. Other ones I've reorganized, A lot of those palettes, the F3 and the F4 stuff that I showed, my sort of, poor man's Stream Deck, that stayed the same where those things were, because I just knew which one to go into, even if it didn't make 100% sense why some things were here and some things were there. But yeah, I just found that we did find solutions for everything. Support's been great when we've needed it. Online, I've only really spoken to my friends and colleagues, because I haven't. Sure. I wanted to make sure that this was where I was going to go before I sort of told everyone that what I was up to, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and so now, you know, it'll be a sense of relief now when this is out that, you know, I can talk
Secret's
openly.
out.
Like we even had a party.
Yeah.
We had I won't say it, but it was some expletives in it, but it was a farewell to finale party that we had, and when I told people that was what was going on, they were in shock, you know, that and everything. But we had a party and we celebrated moving on.
Now that the word is out, next time I'm in LA, we'll have a welcome to Sibelius.
Yeah, we can have
party.
a party.
Yeah,
Avid can pay for the taco truck. That's great.
No problem.
Yeah, I love that.
If my boss is watching, you heard that correctly.
Yeah, they know where I live, so it's okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. But
okay.
Anyway, yeah, the process has been not as hard as I thought it would be, you know.
Yeah.
But there is like a couple of days of utter despair when nothing works the same way.
Sure.
And then one thing starts to work the same way, and then you find it didn't, you know, and all of that, and learning what it's going to do on its own and what you need to push it to do. But like I've said, we've found ways to do everything, you know, that we need to do, and we're functioning, you know, like my whole team, you know, is working right now in it. Like I said, I mean, we just finished Outer Banks season 5. We did Fire Country, Sheriff Country, like they're both CBS TV shows. We did it all in this. I've done a bunch of arranging in it. I was just in London conducting the next Snoopy movie, Snoopy Unleashed, that Jordan Siegel, who's on my team, he orchestrated that, but he did it all in Sibelius. That was the first big one. Jeremy Levy was just in London recording Carlos Rivera's next score, and that was his first big one in Sibelius. So, you know, Lorenzo Carano is another one on my team, and he, you know, we all do our own. We all work together, but then we all have our own things and help each other out on. And so they've all been doing things in the program now that are out, you know, coming out or there.
Of course. Another excellent segue. You're very good at these segues, too.
Yeah.
It's impressive. My last question is for folks watching this and for folks interested in what you're doing, how can people support your work, kind of keep track of what you guys are working on and go support what you're doing? How do people follow that?
You make me sound like I need a GoFundMe or something like that. No, I have a website.
The people love you, Tim. The people love you. They want more.
Yeah, I have a I have my website, timmusic.net, which has sort of news when we get around to updating it. You know, we're a bit slow. But I mean, the most important thing up there is the blog, you know, Debriefed, which is my kind of orchestration handbook or textbook of all the things that I've learned doing what I do, you know, that might not be the same as the textbooks, but it all comes from, you know, 100% practical experience and how I do it. And there's everything from like violin bowing to score layouts and how big I like my time signatures, you know, which is a pet peeve of mine when people think it's a flex and they've got a time signature that runs the whole page. You know, the dumb thing they don't realize is that means it's this wide now. So there's these big gaps, you know, where the notes should be now because you've got, you know, this massive time signature. I'm just, you know, when they came out, it was really good and it was a bit of a flex. And then now people get carried away with it.
That's funny.
They've forgotten why they're making them big. And it's just
I've seen these scores with giant time signatures.
It's just so it's readable by the conductor or someone at a distance. It's not to be a flex or to be the main thing on the page. And if you look at the page and all you see is time signatures, well, then you've done something wrong. But anyway, my guidelines and settings, you know, if you want to send a score to impress me, you could just go to my website and see all the things that I say to do and importantly not to do if you want to impress me, you know. And so that's, you know, that's up there. That's in the website, timmusic.net or debriefed.com. And, you know, I need to update it now that this has all happened. I'll update it with some stuff there. And I think I have to remove a few derogatory remarks that might have crept up there in the past, but we'll get it all cleaned up. And
beautiful.
And I'll have, you know, I've got to update my setup too, so that people can see, you know, there's a section with what I'm using my setup. And like, I just, you know, I mean, of course, every time I come up with something, I think if you're not doing it this way, you're a moron. So, you know, I think like, but just having this setup here is just, you know, everyone should be doing it.
Well, this sounds like a very, very good resource. So if you're watching this video, we're going to put links to those resources in the description below this video, so you can just click on them and check them out when this goes live. And Tim Davies, Thank you. It's been extremely informative and pretty impressive how much you've been able to customize and optimize Sibelius for yourself. And we're really glad to have you here. So thank you for taking the time. Thanks for hanging out with us. And we're hoping that we see a lot more of you in the years to come.
Yeah, well, I'm not going anywhere. So yeah, you will.
Neither are
and
we.
Yeah, and it's been great having the support of everyone there and working on a program that's going forward and developing and listening to us and having the dialogue's been really important to me because I haven't had that for a while. So that's a big deal when you're using it every day, sort of at the highest level. You need to support, that's what I feel I've got here, and everyone's been lovely, and yeah, I'm really enjoying it, like more than I thought I would. So it's been a pleasure.
That's what we like to hear.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you everyone for watching. Thanks for joining us. Tim Davies, once again, thank you, sir, and we'll be talking to you soon.
See ya.